A minha entrevistada hoje é a professora Abena Busia, embaixadora de Gana. Tudo bem, embaixadora?
Sim, tudo bem. É você? I'm very well. Life is good. I'm well. And you?
Oh, tudo bem. Embaixadora, eu estou vendo que a senhora está com uma roupa diferente. Tem algum significado especial essa roupa? É um traje típico?
Yes, it's our national dress. It's called kente, and it's indigenous to Ghana. It's part of our intangible heritage, and we're very proud of it. So you'll see it's what we wear on special occasions, ceremonial occasions. In fact, I'm very happy because yesterday on Sunday, I was at the inauguration of the president of Uruguay. I was wearing a different one, it was different colors with a red lace shirt. But when I went in to greet him, the president of Uruguay said that I was the most beautifully dressed person at his inauguration because I was wearing our national dress. It's an elaborate process. You can't see really, but you can see it's made of narrow strips. It's woven in narrow strips and then sewn together. So everyone is different. Every weaver has in his head his design. There are certain classic designs, but every weaver chooses his colors and color combination and how he does it. So this is something that takes maybe 7 years apprenticeship to learn how to do it well. And, mothers have it made for their weddings and then give it to their daughters. They're heirlooms. And it's our national dress. I'll be wearing a different one on Friday. It's called kente, and it's very distinctively Ghanaian. Yeah.
Embaixadora, eu gostaria que a senhora iniciasse a nossa entrevista falando um pouco sobre a sua vinda para o Brasil.
Well, I'm very happy to be in Brazil. But I am not a career diplomat. I'm a professor. I was born in Ghana. I spent a lot of my childhood in England. After some years in Holland and Mexico, I grew up in England. Did my university degrees, both of them, at Oxford, and then moved to the United States. So for the last 35 years, I have been a professor of literature in the United States. I'm a specialist in literature and culture of the Black world and in women's and gender studies. And I had just finished serving as director of my department of women's and gender studies when my president invited me to come and be ambassador in Brazil. So here I am.
Você já percebeu que a entrevista hoje vai ser muito descontraída, né? Porque a embaixadora ela é bem descontraída e a gente vai contar para vocês um pouquinho da história de Gana. Gana criou uma independência da Grã-Bretanha. Então a língua pátria é inglês. A língua oficial é inglês. Língua oficial é inglês. Como é que foi essa separação e há quanto tempo que isso aconteceu?
It's been 63 years now, 63 years ago, and compared to other countries in other parts of Africa, it was relatively peaceful. Really, Ghana had an indigenous Aboriginal rights movement from the beginning of the 20th century. But really what escalated things was that Ghana, like other West African countries, really sent a lot of troops to fight in the Second World War for the liberation of Europe, and then came back and found themselves subjects still in their own country. And that triggered off the protests and mass movements to ask for independence now, So really, in terms of thinking and debating, the elites had been thinking and debating for the whole of the century. The mass movement towards independence was after the Second World War. And it's a long story, but there were really, a particular incident happened where some soldiers were marching to the castle to demand some demobilization rights. And the British soldiers panicked and shot them, killed 3 of them. And that led to mass demonstrations, mass arrests, and so on, and a commission of inquiry that decided that Britain had best, just go back. And so there was a process of the elections of a constituent assembly and then parliamentary elections and so on. So between, I would say, the commission was in 48 and the first elections were in 54 and the independence parliament in 57.
Que história, uma história do mundo, né? Que Gana, com 63 anos, já vem se destacando, é uma grande exportadora de cacau, o melhor cacau do mundo, um dos melhores cacau do mundo. Cacau está em Gana. Qual a relação comercial do Brasil com Gana? O que nós exportamos para Gana? O que Gana exporta para o Brasil?
Well, I think one of the things I want to do as ambassador is to see if Brazil will buy something from Ghana that is not cocoa. You buy our cocoa, for which we are very pleased. You buy our raw cocoa. Mostly it's cocoa, and more cocoa. You grow a lot of cocoa, but you eat more chocolate than you can grow cocoa for. So you import mostly cocoa. And we buy a lot of things from Brazil, but particularly agricultural products, things to support our agricultural industry. Because, we're learning Brazil's best practices. In 40 years, you made yourself a world agricultural power. You're much, much bigger than us. The size of Ghana is the size of the state of, I think it's Rondonia, but the population of Sao Paulo. You have one city that is the population of our entire country. So you are much, much bigger. We are a much smaller country. But I've been concentrating since I came on the relations in terms of best practices in agriculture, your farm equipments, your expertise and so on in helping us to grow more and grow better food and processing it and so on. That's what we do.
Bem, eu vou dar um recado aí para o general Paulo Assis, que é presidente da Golfobras, né, que tem muitas relações comerciais com a África, né, e com os países lá sediados, para que nós possamos fazer relações também com Gana, que precisa de muita tecnologia brasileira para produzir, uma vez que o clima de Gana e as paisagens se assemelham muito ao Brasil. Embaixadora, e a senhora poderia nos contar uma história marcante ou uma história que ficou na sua vida? Lembra alguma?
Well, interestingly enough, I would say the experience of exile. My father was first a university professor and also a politician. And at the time of independence, he was leader of the opposition. But very quickly after independence, our first prime minister, who then became president, restricted the voice of the opposition. And many of my father and his colleagues ended up, the lucky ones ended up in exile. Some ended up in prison, one of our most influential, important leaders who, in fact, the man whose research and passion gave the name to Ghana, the man who in many respects was considered the father of the independence movement, died in prison under our first president. So Dr. J.B. Dankwa died in prison, but my father was one of the ones who managed to get out. He was going on sabbatical leave and never returned, didn't return for 7 years. It's a dramatic story of how we got out, but my father was due to go on sabbatical leave. So that had been set up. But there was a particular day at the end of the academic year when he was actually in Ghana's second city in Kumasi. I think they were having academic discussions about creating our second university, the University of Science and Technology. And my father was a devout Christian and a praying man, and prayed every morning of his life at 4 o'clock in the morning. And he prayed and knew the Lord was telling him he needed to leave the country. So he came back to the capital and said to our mother, whatever happens, get on that ship, and disappeared. He left. And 2 hours later, the police were there at the house looking for him. And the police missed him by 2 hours all the way. They went to where he'd been, went to his home. They surrounded all his brothers and sisters, but my father managed to get out. He didn't take the obvious route out. He went by road to the north and crossed. But we didn't know this at the time. My mother didn't know this at the time. So 2 weeks later, we were due to go on sabbatical. And there was my mother. At the time, she was 36 with 4 children under the age of 8, had not seen her husband in 2 weeks. The borders were closed because of him. She got to the dock. They wouldn't let her father, who had driven her, my grandfather, had taken us to Takoradi. They wouldn't let him close to her after he got her there. They put her aside and searched all our luggage. And I do remember this. I was only 6 years old, but I remember this. They searched our luggage, accusing her of trying to smuggle her husband out of the country. My father was short. He was only 5'6", but he wasn't that short. He couldn't have fitted into a suitcase. I remember the ship was delayed because my mother was being harassed. And the ship's captain, who was an Englishman, said, this ship does not leave without this passenger. And he got off the ship and helped my mother repack our things and get us on the ship, and then sat us at the captain's table as we sailed. And so we left Ghana without our father. But then I remember one day, I didn't know what was going on. I was only 6, but I remember our mother getting us up. It felt like the middle of the night. It was early morning. And getting us dressed in our Sunday clothes. And it was only a Saturday, because I remember arguing with her. Why was she giving me my special Sunday clothes on a Saturday? And when we went up, instead of going for breakfast, we went and sat. We went up to the deck. And it seemed like for hours. And suddenly Mama shouted, there he is. And what had happened was we had docked in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And Mother realized that if she was to see our father before she arrived in Holland or in England with 4 children and no husband, he would be in Sierra Leone. And there he was. And it wasn't until she said, there he is, that I realized that we were looking for father, because she hadn't told us that we were waiting for him, I guess to protect us in case he didn't show up. But he showed up there in his shirt sleeve, got on the boat in Freetown, and we sailed into exile.
Olha, bem, a senhora é a primeira embaixadora que eu estou entrevistando. Então, eu quero que a senhora convide as outras embaixadoras também para que que eu possa estar entrevistando também, para que, se todas forem assim simpáticas como a senhora, será muito agradável para mim. Pode convidá-las.
No, yes. You know, there are a lot of women ambassadors in Brazil from all over the world. I mean, Canada, New Zealand, Philippines, all over the world. There are 5 of us just from Africa and 2 from the Caribbean. So please, my sisters, come and be interviewed. But we're not hard to find. There are a lot of us. So if you haven't interviewed us yet, you know, round every corner you will find a woman ambassador. Really. So please do.
Estou muito feliz de estar aqui. I'm happy.
I'm glad you came. And I think you'll find that the rest of us, especially us who are women, have interesting perspectives on the work we do and what we're doing in Brazil. So please go and visit my sister ambassadors. We're organized, we're a group. You'll find us very easily. Okay, get in touch with the ambassador of Canada. She's organizing us as a group.
Bem, está dado o recado aí para as senhoras embaixadoras, né? Só fazer um contato conosco, nós faremos com vocês também, para que possam estar participando desse projeto. Afinal de contas, nós estamos aqui porque estamos fazendo um projeto cultural para os 60 anos de Brasília, que Brasília completa 60 anos dia 21 de abril. Há na Inglaterra ou em Gana alguma data que parece com essa?
Well, we have important dates in Ghana. As you know, our day of independence is March 6, 1957. So that's the end of this week. But also for us, this is a special year because it is also 60 years of diplomatic relations between Ghana and Brazil. The diplomatic relations between Ghana and Brazil started in 1960, 3 years after our independence. So we are also marking that relationship this year, you know.
Thank you. Então tá aí, olha, que coincidência, né? 60 anos da independência das relações comerciais de Gana com o Brasil e 60 anos de Brasília. E o dia 20...
That's also diplomatic, not commercial.
Ok.
Diplomatic relations is important.
E dia 21 de abril é aniversário de quem?
Oh, the Queen of England.
Olha aí, outra coincidência, hein? Olha, nós estamos aqui e realmente há muita coincidência. O aniversário da rainha também da Inglaterra. Mas
I know this because I grew up in England and my birthday is April 28th. So my birthday was always exactly a week after the Queen's birthday.
Ok. Embaixadora, eu, de novo, estou muito feliz de poder estar aqui entrevistando a senhora, a primeira embaixadora que está abrindo o leque. Eu não sei se vai dar tempo de entrevistar todos ou todas, porque depende da agenda de cada um para isto. Mas agora eu queria deixar aberto para a senhora, para que a senhora mande um abraço para Brasília, um abraço para o Brasil, que vai comemorar os 60 anos.
So, happy birthday to Brazil. I love Brasilia. I love Brasilia. I am fascinated by what it took to create this city. I think the heroes are the people who came and cut the trees and laid the roads, and what a feat, you know. I think it's exciting to be in a city that was the vision of somebody. And, you know, you have a president who said, I want to do this. And then designers and architects and Oscar Niemeyer who said, we can do this, and collected all these extraordinary people. And, you know, Brasilia is a city of secrets. When you're on the road, you don't really understand on the motorway what the city is like. You have to get out and walk and go behind, go to the places where people live, go behind the stores. You enter the front of the restaurants and walk to the back. And then you get a sense of what the idea behind how people can negotiate the city. And that has been exciting to see and to learn. You know, it's very, you know, when you think that it was designed 60 years ago, the architects and everything, it's extraordinary. I'm very happy to be in Brasília. So happy birthday, Brasília. And I'm looking forward to, I'm waiting for my invitation to the party.
Thank you por essa grande declaração a Brasília, né? Que é emocionante de ouvir de uma ganense, que veio para o Brasil para servir o seu país aqui no nosso país, na nossa Brasília, e fazer uma declaração de amor tão grande por Brasília. Fico envaidecido, obrigado, thank you. Embaixadora, agora eu vou fazer uma pequena homenagem à senhora. Este é um diploma de honra ao mérito pela sua disposição, pela sua disponibilidade de poder nos conceder esta entrevista.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Obrigada. Obrigada.
Por favor, para a câmera. E assim, nós vamos ficando por aqui, convidando você, embaixadora, você embaixador, você empresário, que ainda não participa dos 60 anos de Brasília, promovido pela nossa agência, pela Agência Voz de Brasília. Nós agradecemos a sua audiência e convidamos você para participar. Procure-nos pelas nossas redes sociais, pelo nosso site, venha participar conosco. Brasília não pode passar em branco. Essa é a minha homenagem para Brasília, esse tempo que a gente está dedicando para homenagear a nossa capital que faz 60 anos. Fiquem todos com Deus e até a próxima.